The intro is me saying intro.
Thank you for listening to the intro.
This is the end of the intro.
Part of cinematography, like I was saying earlier, is just the fact that it helps tell a story within a story. And I guess what I wanted to get in on this episode is just how Denis Villeneuve does it in his movies. He's one of my favorite directors, and again, almost every single film I've watched of his has just been, in my opinion, perfect. Everything from the actors he selected to the script itself to the audio itself as well. Everything basically every small little facet of the movie is just perfected.
Yeah,
And
he orchestrated it like well.
yeah, he really goes out of his way to just kind of make sure that if there's something in the scene, there's a reason it's there. And that's cinematography in general. Is just everything has to belong in a sense. I mean, there's some filmmakers. Tarantino's a good example for this. He's so very hit or miss with me when it comes to his cinematography. There's some shots that are just absolutely gorgeous, and then there are others where it just feels too cluttered. Which honestly, I think it's something he was getting at. It's something that he was trying to push because Tarantino knows he's pretty good at making you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
A good example.
Go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry, go on.
Okay.
Well,
I was just gonna add to that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say a good example of that would be in *Inglourious Bastards*. Oh, good lord, what's it called? Like the tavern scene, the bar scene, right before all the Germans start shooting each other up.
Yeah.
That entire scene is so uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
the way it's framed, everything's so cramped. Everyone's so close. A lot of the shots are so up close and personal, where it almost feels like you're sitting in between all of this, and there's danger in front of you. And that kind of like storytelling to me, it's just amazing, and it's one thing that helps determine whether or not I'm gonna love a movie.
Yeah.
But what were you gonna say earlier? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was actually gonna bring up that that Inglourious Bastards thing. Yeah, I mean like in film like that, yeah, it's I think you talked about it's oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought again. Like orchestrating the entire thing, and if you have a good cinematographer you're gonna work well with, and you're gonna be able to place something in the scene, and maybe you don't have to tell them, hey, I want this in the scene or something. They're just gonna be like, well, that's part of it because I know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Yeah, Roger Deakins is a legend. He's done the cinematography, like I said, one of my favorite movies, No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
And when I saw that
gorgeous.
movie, like I saw it in theaters with Chase, and I remember seeing it, and like that was the first thing I like noticed about it. I was like, this movie is beautiful to look at. Like what is this? This is the desert that I kind of know now, and like it looks amazing. Like what is, like, how do I see this when I go out somewhere? But
And that's the thing. Growing up in New Mexico, like there's desert all around, and then it's just like, oh, this is the way of life. And then there's a movie that takes place in the desert, and it's just like, how did he make it so much more enchanting and much more like I want to be there? It's like, wait a minute, I could go like 20 miles south and I'll be there.
Yeah. Instead, you're just sitting outside and it's like, oh, it's hot. Never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's great. And again, like the movie I just reviewed, my latest review was 1917. He did for that too, and it's kind of like his shots are like, you can tell when he has a shot. He has a lot of like in the dark, like bright lights, like one source of light, and like they're in the dark, and kind of like I saw it in Sicario. And I saw, I see it in like again No Country for Old Men. It's kind of a staple of his, I guess.
Oh yeah. And actually, I'm glad that you brought up Sicario, because that is something I want to bring up. With especially with Roger Deakins and cinematography, that is one of the how do I say this? Like the way that movie is presented, there's a certain color palette for every scene,
Yes.
and that color palette helps elevate like how you're supposed to feel. Like this is what I mean when I'm talking about like cinematography being super important. Both Roger Deakins and Denis Villeneuve, the way they have essentially set up that movie, they like guide how you're supposed to feel the entire time through, and it's amazing. It goes from like whenever they're in Arizona or whatever before they find them. Sorry, spoilers for the people who haven't seen Sicario.
Yeah.
You should go watch Sicario.
Watch it, then come back.
Yeah, but before they find the bodies out in the walls and whatnot, it shows.